General Hospital, spoilers for the next 2 weeks, March 9 to March 20. I keep thinking about this storyline, and honestly, it feels like the calm before something ugly. Maybe not calm exactly. More like that weird silence in a room before someone slams the door. That kind of tension. First thing that stands out is Sidwell and Willow. From the very beginning of the week, it looks like Sidwell wastes absolutely no time. He goes straight to Willow and delivers the threat. Not loudly, maybe not dramatic, but the kind of threat that sticks in your head afterward when you are alone and replaying the words again and again. Sidwell wants Willow to understand something very simple. Do not fight him. That is basically the message. It is not even framed like a negotiation, more like a quiet warning. The type where the person speaking barely raises their voice but you still feel cold afterward. And honestly, I think Willow understands. She is not stupid. She knows the kind of man Sidwell is. This is someone who does not bluff often. If he says something bad could happen, then yeah, people might actually get hurt. The scary part is that Willow herself is not the only person in danger. Nina might be on that list too. Sidwell could easily make Nina disappear if he gets angry enough. That possibility alone probably keeps Willow awake at night. I picture Willow standing there trying to keep her composure, acting calm, pretending she has control of the situation even though deep down she knows she really does not. Sidwell probably notices every tiny reaction. That kind of man always does. But here's the thing, Willow knows her position. She knows she is not in a place where she can openly challenge Sidwell. So maybe she agrees. Maybe she nods quietly and acts cooperative. Not because she wants to, but because survival sometimes looks like obedience. Still, I do not fully trust Willow either. There is something about her lately that feels calculated, like she is always thinking 3 moves ahead. Maybe she is playing along for now. Maybe she has her own plan somewhere in the background, hard to say. Meanwhile, Carly is dealing with something completely different. Or maybe not that different because danger keeps following Carly like a shadow. There is supposed to be a conversation. That is the polite word. But I seriously doubt it stays polite. I am almost sure the person she talks to is Jason. Except it is not really a conversation. It turns into an argument pretty quickly. Jason is angry. Actually, angry might be too soft of a word. More like frustrated, disappointed, maybe even betrayed a little. Because Carly kept something from him. That alone is already a problem. Jason does not like secrets when they involve people he cares about. And what was the secret? Carly forming an alliance with Valentine? Yeah, that is not a small detail to hide, especially from Jason. Jason probably sees it as reckless, maybe even dangerous stupidity. From his perspective, Carly jumped into something complicated without telling him, and now everything could spiral out of control. Then there is Brennan. Another layer of trouble. Carly apparently wants Brennan taken down, which sounds simple in theory, but in reality it is a mess waiting to happen. Jason definitely hates that idea. If someone is going to go after Brennan, it should be him, not Carly. That is how Jason thinks. He takes the risk himself so other people do not have to. I imagine their argument going in circles. Carly defending herself, Jason shaking his head, pacing around the room trying to explain why this plan is terrible. At some point though, Jason probably stops arguing and starts thinking instead. That is usually when he becomes dangerous. A new idea forms, something unexpected, and the weird part is that it might involve Valentine. Yeah, Jason working with Valentine. Not exactly the most obvious partnership in the world, but desperate situations create strange alliances. If that actually happens, then their target list becomes bigger. Not just Brennan anymore. Cullum might end up on that list. Sidwell too. Basically, anyone causing chaos in Port Charles could suddenly find themselves facing a very determined trio. Jason, Carly, Valentine. That combination alone sounds like trouble. But Jason also has another situation running at the same time. Something much more personal. Brit. Her health situation is still hanging over everything like a dark cloud. Jason refuses to sit back and watch things get worse, so he puts together a risky plan. Marco becomes part of it. They ask Marco to steal medication. Specifically the treatment Britt desperately needs. On paper, it might sound doable. In reality, it is incredibly dangerous. Marco is stepping into territory controlled by some very ruthless people. And honestly, I do not think this plan succeeds. Something goes wrong. Probably very wrong. Marco might fail before he even gets close to the medicine. Or maybe someone catches him in the act. Pascal is the name that keeps coming up in my mind. Pascal would not hesitate to retaliate. Even if Marco happens to be Sidwell's son, that connection might not save him. So imagine Marco cornered somewhere, maybe beaten, maybe worse, the situation escalating fast. Jason eventually finds out and steps in. Of course he does. Jason always steps in. But rescuing Marco might create another disaster, because Pascal could turn his attention toward Jason instead. And Pascal striking Jason would not shock me at all. In fact, it feels like the kind of twist these stories love, the hero rushing into danger and getting taken down unexpectedly. If Jason ends up injured or worse, then everything changes. Every single character connected to him would be affected. Which leads into Alexis. Alexis is already thinking about the future. Not in a hopeful way. More like preparing for the worst. Jason apparently suggested something to her. If he were no longer around, Alexis might become Danny's guardian. That thought alone probably shook her. The idea that Jason even considered the possibility of not being there. Alexis then starts thinking bigger. Not just Danny. Scout too? She wants the siblings together. Danny and Scout living under the same roof, growing up side by side instead of being separated by complicated family drama. So Alexis approaches Willow with a request. She asks Willow to remove the restraining order to allow this arrangement to happen. It probably comes from a sincere place. Alexis imagining a peaceful household, children laughing, a chance to give them stability. But here is where things get uncomfortable. Willow might refuse. And not simply refuse. She could actually use the situation to her advantage. That is the part that bothers me. Scout becomes leverage, a piece on the chessboard, Willow controlling access, manipulating emotions, keeping Alexis under pressure. I do not like that version of Willow. It feels darker than the person we used to see. But lately her behavior has been shifting. Subtle at first, now more noticeable. While all of that unfolds, another storyline creeps in quietly. Delilah. There is a strong possibility Delilah dies. And if that happens, it opens a huge mystery. Dante steps in as the investigator, trying to uncover who Delilah really was, because there are hints that her identity is not what everyone believed. Dante probably starts gathering evidence, documents, witness accounts, maybe old records no one bothered to check before. Slowly, pieces start fitting together. At the same time, Chase and Brooklyn are moving forward with something emotional. They begin the adoption process for Delilah's baby. It sounds hopeful at first. A child getting a stable home. Two people ready to become parents. But soap stories never stay simple. The biological father could suddenly appear in town, out of nowhere. Or maybe not out of nowhere. The worst twist would be this. The father has actually been living in Port Charles the entire time. Hidden in plain sight. Someone viewers already know. That revelation would explode through the story like a shockwave. And speaking of shockwaves, there is another situation building quietly. Portia. She might discover something devastating. Jordan is pregnant, and the baby belongs to Curtis. Just imagining Portia's reaction makes me uneasy, because she has already shown how far she will go to protect what she believes is hers. Acceptance seems unlikely. Forgiveness even less likely. Instead, Portia might choose revenge. Not openly, not with loud confrontations. Something secret, something calculated. A plan that leads to Jordan losing the baby. A miscarriage caused by manipulation behind the scenes. If that actually happens, it would be brutal. The emotional fallout alone could tear several relationships apart. Then there is Rick. Rick gets pulled into conflict too, possibly with Dante. Why Dante? Because Dante has been spending time around Liz. Maybe flirting a little, maybe just being friendly, but sending the wrong signals. Rick notices. And Rick does not handle jealousy well. He might interpret everything as Dante trying to steal his girlfriend. Whether that is true or not almost does not matter. The tension builds until they confront each other. Words first, then maybe something worse. It could even drag Sonny into the situation somehow. Rick and Sonny have never exactly been calm around each other. Add jealousy and misunderstanding and suddenly the whole thing could explode. And finally, we reach the event that might tie many of these threads together. The party at Windermere. Sidwell probably imagines it as a controlled environment, a place where he can host people, show power, maintain the illusion that he has everything under control. But reality rarely follows a script. This party feels like a disaster waiting to happen. Too many enemies in one place. Too many secrets. Too many people carrying grudges. At some point, chaos erupts. Gunfire maybe, people shouting, someone pulling a weapon when no one expected it. And even worse, there might be a bomb hidden somewhere inside Windermere, quietly placed earlier by someone who wanted maximum destruction. If that device goes off, the entire place could be reduced to rubble. Lives lost, alliances shattered. Sidwell would stand there realizing he never truly controlled the situation at all. Sometimes the moment you think you are the most powerful person in the room is exactly when everything falls apart. Honestly, that is why these upcoming episodes feel so tense to me. Every storyline seems to be walking toward the same edge. Threats, secrets, revenge, desperation. One wrong move and the whole thing collapses. And maybe that collapse begins at Windermere, or maybe it begins earlier with Jason's risky choices, or Willow's manipulation, or Portia's anger. Hard to pinpoint the exact spark. But the explosion, that part feels inevitable.